Nagesh AM, working as a selection grade lecturer in the Department of Electrical and Electronics Engineering. In the last class, we have studied about the meaning of hunting and how the hunting will be prevented by using a damper winding, and what are the other methods which can be used in order to prevent the hunting. So due to hunting, what are the causes and what are the effects and what are the advantages of using these damper windings in order to prevent the hunting process. Today we are going to discuss about the necessity and the different methods which can be used in order to cooling of a alternator. So first thing is why we required cooling of a alternator. So in case of a alternator, we are having both the stator part and the rotor part. So there will be a chance of the friction will be occurring between the stationary and the rotating part. So due to this heavy running of the machine for a longer period, the heat will be produced. So we have to dissipate that heat within the limited time. Otherwise, it may damage the insulation and also the winding of the various parts of a DC machine. So, in order to remove the excess amount of heat produced at the time of running the alternator, we required a cooling. So, cooling of synchronous generator is very essential. Otherwise, the system will be damaged. In order to control that high increasing of temperature due to the operation of a alternator, we required a cooling system. So usually there are different types of cooling system will be adopted in order to dissipate the amount of heat generated in the alternator. The first thing is, so suppose the natural cooling. So that means the where the machine will be installed, surrounding air is not adequate in order to dissipate the great amount of heat produced in the alternator. ಸೊ ಏನು ಒಂದು ನ್ಯಾಚುರಲ್ ಕೂಲಿಂಗ್ ಇಂದ ನಾವು ಏನು ಒಂದು ಆಲ್ಟರ್ನೇಟರ್ಲಿ ಎಕ್ಸಸ್ ಅಮೌಂಟ್ ಆಫ್ ಹೀಟ್ ಪ್ರೊಡ್ಯೂಸ್ ಆಗ್ತದೆ, ಆ ಪ್ರೊಡ್ಯೂಸ್ ಆದಂತ ಹೀಟ್ ನಾವು ಕಂಪ್ಲೀಟ್ ಆಗಿ ಡಿಸಿಪಿಯೇಟ್ ಮಾಡೋಕ್ಕಾಗಲ್ಲ. ಸೊ ಹಾಗಾಗಿ ನ್ಯಾಚುರಲ್ ಕೂಲಿಂಗ್ ಈಸ್ ಓನ್ಲಿ ಲಿಮಿಟೆಡ್ ಫಾರ್ ಎ ಲೋಯರ್ ವ್ಯಾಲ್ಯೂ ಆರ್ ಲೋಯರ್ ರೇಟಿಂಗ್ ಮೆಷಿನ್. The second method is the forced air cooling system. So that means we are providing a separate ventilation system in order to force the free air along with the ducts or the ventilating pores will be provided in the stator and the rotor and also the field winding in order to circulate the atmospheric air inside the system with the help of the forced fan system in order to remove the heat. And one more method is the closed circuit ventilation system. So this is the better way of controlling the heat production in alternator. So usually in this type of system, a clean and hot air from the alternator is cooled by a water cooled heat exchanger and forced through the alternator by fans. So whatever the heat that is produced in the machine will be extracted from the heat exchanger, and that will be cooled with the help of a forced fans will be located nearby the machine. And also the ventilating ducts are provided in the stator and the rotor cores and also in the field coils of the generator or machine in order to circulate the forced air. ಸೊ ಇನ್ ಕ್ಲೋಸ್ಡ್ ಸಿಸ್ಟಮ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಏನಾಗ್ತದೆ ಅಂತ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಕ್ಲೀನ್ ಮತ್ತೆ ಹಾಟ್ ಏರ್ ಏನು ಒಂದು ಆಲ್ಟರ್ನೇಟ್ ಇಂದ ಪ್ರೊಡ್ಯೂಸ್ ಆಗ್ತದೆ ಅದನ್ನು ನಾವು ಕೂಲ್ ಮಾಡೋಕ್ಕೆ ಏನನ್ನು ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ? ಸೊ ದಿ ಹೀಟ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಚೇಂಜರ್. ಸೊ ಏನು ನಾವು ಹೀಟ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಚೇಂಜರ್ಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಹೀಟ್ನ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ರಾಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ತೀವಿ, ಆ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ರಾಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಿದಂಥ ಏರ್ನ ನಾವು ಹಾಟ್ ಏರ್ನ ಸೊ ಒಂದು ಫೋರ್ಸ್ಡ್ ಫ್ಯಾನ್ ಮುಖಾಂತರ ನಾವು ಏರ್ನ ಸರ್ಕ್ಯುಲೇಟ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಅದನ್ನ ಕೂಲ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ. ಅದೇ ತರ ಒಂದು ಸ್ಟೇಟಾರು ಮತ್ತೆ ರೋಟಾರ್ ಅಥವಾ ಫೀಲ್ಡ್ ಕಾಯಿಲ್ಸ್ ನ ಡಿಸೈನ್ ಮಾಡುವಂತ ಸಂದರ್ಭದಲ್ಲಿ ಏನ್ ಮಾಡಿರ್ತಾರೆ, ದೇ ಆರ್ ಪ್ರೊವೈಡಿಂಗ್ ಎ ಪ್ರಾವಿಷನ್ ಫಾರ್ ದ ವೆಂಟಿಲೇಟಿಂಗ್ ಡಕ್ಟ್ಸ್. ಆ ವೆಂಟಿಲೇಟಿಂಗ್ ಡಕ್ಟ್ಸ್ ನ ಪ್ರೊವೈಡ್ ಮಾಡಿರೋದ್ರಿಂದ ಥ್ರೂ ವೆಂಟಿಲೇಟಿಂಗ್ ಡಕ್ಟ್ ದ ಫೋರ್ಸ್ಡ್ ಏರ್ ವಿಲ್ ಬಿ ಸರ್ಕ್ಯುಲೇಟೆಡ್ ಇನ್ ಆರ್ಡರ್ ಟು ಕೂಲ್ ದ heat produced in the alternator. So depending upon the direction of air flow in forced air system, how the air will be circulated to the machine. So according to that, it can be classified into different types. The first one is radial flow ventilation system. So the name itself will indicate the air will be circulated radially. So that means the cooling air enters the ducts through stator. In the initial condition, radially they are circulating the forced air through the stator, and after completion of this work it will be returned back to the stator when the heat will be removed. And advantages of this radial ventilation system is the energy loss for ventilation is minimum, and the system is applicable both for the small and the larger machine. And the limitation is it makes the machine less compact, and the ventilating ducts will occupy about 20% of the armature length. So these are the limitation behind this. So it is very difficult to adopt this type of ventilating system. The heat dissipation is less when we compared with the other types of air circulating system. So next, like that, one more method is axial flow ventilation system. So in this system, the forced air in the axial direction is passed through the passages formed by the holes in the stator and rotors. So we have already discussed about the ducts will be provided. Through that duct, the air will be circulated axially. So that means it is parallel to the shaft, like that it will be supplied. One more is the circumferential. In this method, air is supplied at one or more points on the outer periphery of the stator core. So it is a circumferential. So one or more points the air will be circulated on the outer periphery of the stator core, and these forced air through the ducts between the laminations and suitable outlets. So by using this type of method, the duct area can be increased. So we can get the effective type of air circulation by using this method. So the most important method, so that can be adopted for a larger turbo generator in order to cool the system, so they can be used for the hydrogen cooling of a synchronous generator. So this is the how the machine will be adopted the hydrogen cooling system in order to cool the heat produced in the alternator. So in hydrogen cooling, hydrogen gas is used as a cooling agent because this hydrogen gas will have a very superior cooling properties. But the major disadvantages of this thing is, so certain mixtures of hydrogen and air are explosive at certain ratios. So for example, the explosion may taken place with a range of 6% hydrogen and 94% air, up to 71% hydrogen and 29% air. With this combination, so it will be forming a explosion. When there is more than 71% hydrogen, the mixture is not combustible. So that is the major disadvantages. So therefore, in usual practice, the ratio will be adopted is 9:1. So that is 9 part hydrogen and 1 part air will be used in order to cool the a very large turbo alternators. And also in order to prevent this explosive mixture of hydrogen and air occurring in the generator, the hydrogen gas pressure is maintained above the atmosphere. ಸೊ ಈ ಹೈಡ್ರೋಜನ್ ಗ್ಯಾಸ್ ಏನಿದೆ ಅದನ್ನ ನಾವು ಅಟ್ಮಾಸ್ಫಿಯರ್ ಪ್ರೆಷರ್ಗಿಂತ ಮೇಲೆ ಯಾವಾಗಲೂ ಮೇಂಟೈನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇರಬೇಕು. So this hydrogen cooling system will require the complete seated circulating system. The entire thing will be enclosed in a circulating area, and the special oil seated glands are used between the shaft and the casing. This oil will absorb both the hydrogen leaking out and also air leaking out. It is purified periodically. And this hydrogen gas is circulated by air blowers and fans through the rotor and stator. ಸೊ ಏನು ಈ ಹೈಡ್ರೋಜನ್ ಗ್ಯಾಸ್ನ ಬ್ಲೋಯರ್ನ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡಿಕೊಂಡು ಅಥವಾ ಫ್ಯಾನ್ಸ್ ಮುಖಾಂತರ ರೋಟಾರ್ ಮತ್ತೆ ಸ್ಟೇಟಾರಿಗೆ ಕಳಿಸ್ಕೊಡ್ತಾರೆ. ದೆನ್ ಇಟ್ ಇಸ್ ಪಾಸ್ಡ್ ಓವರ್ ದ ಕೂಲಿಂಗ್ ಕಾಯಿಲ್ಸ್. ಆ ಕೇಸಿಂಗ್ ಮೇಲೆ ಏನೋ ಒಂದು ಕೂಲಿಂಗ್ ಕಾಯಿಲ್ಸ್ ನ ಪ್ರೊವೈಡ್ ಮಾಡಿರ್ತಾರೆ, ಅದ್ರ ಮೇಲೆ ಪಾಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾರೆ. ದ ಕಾಯಿಲ್ಸ್ ವಿಲ್ ಕ್ಯಾರಿ ಆಯಿಲ್ ಆರ್ ವಾಟರ್. ಆ ಕಾಯಿಲ್ ಒಳಗಡೆ ಏನ ಸರ್ಕ್ಯುಲೇಟ್ ಮಾಡಿರ್ತಾರೆ, ಆಯಿಲ್ ಅಥವಾ ವಾಟರ್ ನ ಸರ್ಕ್ಯುಲೇಟ್ ಮಾಡಿರ್ತಾರೆ. ಆ ಆಯಿಲ್ ಅಥವಾ ವಾಟರ್ ಈ ಹೀಟ್ ಏನ್ ಜನರೇಟ್ ಆಗಿರ್ತದೆ ಅದನ್ನ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ರಾಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಳುತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ ದೀಸ್ ಹೈಡ್ರೋಜನ್ ಕೂಲಿಂಗ್ ಇನ್ಕ್ರೀಸಸ್ the overall efficiency of the generator by about 1%. And also this will increases the capacity of the system about 25% of the generator of the same physical size using a air. So therefore by using a hydrogen cooling, so we can have a better way of cooling system for the higher turbo generators. And what are the advantages of using this type of cooling? So this hydrogen cooling will increase the efficiency of the machine by about 1%, and also it will be increases the rating of the machine, and automatically the efficiency and the rating will be increasing means the life of the machine is also increases. This hydrogen has a better cooling property, so therefore it will eradicated the fire hazard system. And also for a smaller size coolers of electric machines it can be used, and the noise will be very less. And what are the limitations of using these hydrogen cooling? So usually the frame of hydrogen cooled alternator is more costly. The frame of the hydrogen cooled alternator is more costly because of the necessity to provide explosion proof construction. So ಇಲ್ಲಿ ನಮಗೆ ಹೈಡ್ರೋಜನ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಹೈಡ್ರೋಜನ್ ಮತ್ತೆ ಗ್ಯಾಸ್ ಯಾವುದೋ ಒಂದು ಕಾಂಬಿನೇಷನ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಮಿಕ್ಸ್ಚರ್ ಆದಾಗ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪ್ಲೋಷನ್ ಆಗ್ತದೆ. ಆ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪ್ಲೋಷನ್ ನ ಅವಾಯ್ಡ್ ಮಾಡೋಕ್ಕೋಸ್ಕರ ಅಥವಾ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪ್ಲೋಷನ್ ಪ್ರೂಫ್ಗೋಸ್ಕರ ಸೊ ಕಾಸ್ಟ್ಲಿ ಎಕ್ವಿಪ್ಮೆಂಟ್ ನ ಪ್ರೊವೈಡ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕಾಗುತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ and these type of hydrogen cooling are necessary to admit hydrogen to the alternator without creating an explosion. ಸೊ ಏನು ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪ್ಲೋಷನ್ ಪ್ರೂಫ್ ಕನ್ಸ್ಟ್ರಕ್ಷನ್ಸ್ ನ ಪ್ರೊವೈಡ್ ಮಾಡಿರ್ತಾರೆ, ಸೊ ಅದರಿಂದ ಸೊ ಯಾವುದೇ ಕಾರಣಕ್ಕೂ ಹೈಡ್ರೋಜನ್ ಯಾವ ಒಂದು ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪ್ಲೋಷನ್ ನ ಕ್ರಿಯೇಟ್ ಮಾಡಲ್ಲ. ಸೋರ್ಸಿಂಗ್ ದ ಏರ್ ವಿತ್ ಕಾರ್ಬನ್ ಡೈಆಕ್ಸೈಡ್ ಅಂಡ್ ದೆನ್ ಅಡ್ಮಿಟಿಂಗ್ ಹೈಡ್ರೋಜನ್. So by using a vacuum pumping the unit to 1/5 atmosphere and admitting hydrogen. Cooling coils carry oil or water inside the casing are provided in order to extract the hydrogen. So ನಾವು ಇದುವರೆಗೂ ಕೂಲಿಂಗ್ ಬಗ್ಗೆ ತಿಳ್ಕೊಂಡು, ಕೂಲಿಂಗ್ ಅಂತ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಏನು, ಸೊ ಏನು ಒಂದು ಆಲ್ಟರ್ನೇಟರ್ ರನ್ನಿಂಗ್ ಆಗುವಂತ ಸಂದರ್ಭದಲ್ಲಿ ಈ ಫಿಕ್ಸ್ಡ್ ಮತ್ತೆ ಮೂವಿಂಗ್ ಕಾಂಟ್ಯಾಕ್ಟ್ ನಡುವೆ ಏನು ಒಂದು ಫ್ರಿಕ್ಷನ್ ಕ್ರಿಯೇಟ್ ಆಗಿ ಆ ಫ್ರಿಕ್ಷನ್ ಇಂದ ಏನು ಒಂದು ಲಾಸಸ್ ಪ್ರೊಡ್ಯೂಸ್ ಆಗ್ತದೆ. ಆ ಲಾಸಸ್ ವಿಲ್ ಬಿ ಇನ್ಕ್ರೀಸಸ್ ದ ಟೆಂಪರೇಚರ್ ಆಫ್ ದ ವೈಂಡಿಂಗ್ ಆಸ್ ವೆಲ್ ಆಸ್ ದ ಫೀಲ್ಡ್ ಕಾಯಿಲ್ಸ್. ಸೊ ಈ ಟೆಂಪರೇಚರ್ನ ನಾವು ವಿತಿನ್ ದ ಪರ್ಮಿಸಬಲ್ ಲಿಮಿಟ್ ಒಳಗಡೆ ಕಂಟ್ರೋಲ್ ಮಾಡಲಿಲ್ಲ ಅಂತ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ವೈಂಡಿಂಗ್ನ ಡ್ಯಾಮೇಜ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೇವೆ. ಏನು ನಾವು ಇನ್ಸುಲೇಷನ್ ಪ್ರೊವೈಡ್ ಮಾಡಿರ್ತೀವಿ, ಇನ್ಸುಲೇಷನ್ ಮೇ ಪಂಕ್ಚರ್. ಸೊ ಇವೆಲ್ಲನೂ ನಾವು ಪ್ರೊಟೆಕ್ಟ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ನಮಗೆ ಒಂದು ಎಫೆಕ್ಟಿವ್ ಕೂಲಿಂಗ್ ಸಿಸ್ಟಮ್ನ ಪ್ರೊವೈಡ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು. ಸೊ ಅದರಲ್ಲಿ ನಾವು ಡಿಫರೆಂಟ್ ಟೈಪ್ಸ್ ಆಫ್ ಕೂಲಿಂಗ್ ಸಿಸ್ಟಮ್ ನೋಡ್ದು. ಒಂದು ರೇಡಿಯಲ್ ಫ್ಲೋ ಆಫ್ ಕೂಲಿಂಗ್ ಸಿಸ್ಟಮ್, ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಆಕ್ಸಿಯಲ್ ಫ್ಲೋ ಆಫ್ ಏರ್ ಸರ್ಕ್ಯುಲೇಷನ್, ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಸರ್ಕಂಫರೆನ್ಷಿಯಲ್ ಫ್ಲೋ ಆಫ್ ಏರ್ ಸರ್ಕ್ಯುಲೇಷನ್. ಈ ಎಲ್ಲ ಮೆಥಡ್ಗಳನ್ನ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡು ನಾವು ಏನು ಸ್ಟೇಟಾರ್ ಮತ್ತೆ ರೋಟಾರ್ ಮತ್ತೆ ಫೀಲ್ಡ್ ಕಾಯಿಲ್ಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ವೆಂಟಿಲೇಟಿಂಗ್ ಡಕ್ಟ್ಸ್ ನ ಡಿಸೈನ್ ಮಾಡುವಂತ ಸಂದರ್ಭದಲ್ಲಿ ಪ್ರೊವೈಡ್ ಮಾಡಿಬಿಟ್ಟು ಏರನ್ನ ಸರ್ಕ್ಯುಲೇಟ್ ಮಾಡಿ ನಾವೇನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೋ ಕೂಲಿಂಗ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೋ. ಸೊ ಈ ಎಲ್ಲದರಲ್ಲೂ ಅದರದೇ ಆದ ಲಿಮಿಟೇಷನ್ ಇರೋದ್ರಿಂದ ಹೈಯರ್ ರೇಟಿಂಗ್ ಮೆಷನ್ಸ್ ನ ಕಂಟ್ರೋಲ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು ಅಂದಾಗ ಹೈಡ್ರೋಜನ್ ಕೂಲಿಂಗ್ಗೆ ನಾವು ಹೋಗ್ತೀವಿ. ಆ ಹೈಡ್ರೋಜನ್ ಕೂಲಿಂಗ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಏನಾಗ್ತದೆ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಯಾವುದೋ ಒಂದು ಸರ್ಟನ್ ರೇಷಿಯೋ ಆಫ್ ಹೈಡ್ರೋಜನ್ ಗ್ಯಾಸ್ ಮತ್ತೆ ಏರ್ ನ ಮಿಕ್ಸ್ಚರ್ ಮಾಡಿದಾಗ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪ್ಲೋಷನ್ ಆಗುವಂತ ಸಾಧ್ಯತೆ ಇರ್ತದೆ. ಹಾಗಾಗಿ ನಾವು ಏನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಿ ಅಂತಂದ್ರೆ ಆ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪ್ಲೋಷನ್ ನ ಅವಾಯ್ಡ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಸೊ ಆ ಕನ್ಸ್ಟ್ರಕ್ಷನ್ ಮಾಡುವಂತ ಸಂದರ್ಭದಲ್ಲಿ ವಿ ಆರ್ ಗಿವಿಂಗ್ ಇಂಪಾರ್ಟೆನ್ಸ್ ಫಾರ್ ದ ಪ್ರೂಫ್ ಕನ್ಸ್ಟ್ರಕ್ಷನ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಗ್ಯಾಸ್ ಟೈಟ್ ಶಾಫ್ಟ್ ಸೀಲ್. ಸೊ ಯಾವುದೇ ಕಾರಣಕ್ಕೂ ಏರು ಲೀಕ್ ಆಗಬಾರ್ದು ಮತ್ತೆ ಹೈಡ್ರೋಜನ್ ಗ್ಯಾಸ್ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪ್ಲೋಷನ್ ಆದಂತ ಸಂದರ್ಭದಲ್ಲಿ ಲೀಕೇಜ್ ಆಗಬಾರ್ದು ಅಂತ ದೇ ಆರ್ ಪ್ರೊವೈಡಿಂಗ್ ಎ ಪ್ರೂಫ್ ಕನ್ಸ್ಟ್ರಕ್ಷನ್. ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಮಲ್ಟಿಪಲ್ ಚಾಯ್ಸ್ ಕ್ವಶನ್ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ಕೂಲಿಂಗ್ ಮೇಲೆ ಯಾವ ತರ ನಮಗೆ ಮಲ್ಟಿಪಲ್ ಚಾಯ್ಸ್ ಕ್ವಶನ್ ಬರ್ತದೆ ಅಂತ. ಸೊ ಇದುವರೆಗೂ ನಾವು ಏನ್ ತಿಳ್ಕೊಂಡು ಕೂಲಿಂಗ್ ಅಂತ ಅಂದ್ರೇನು, ಕೂಲಿಂಗ್ ಟೈಪ್ಸ್ ಅಂತ ಅಂದ್ರೇನು, ಲಿಮಿಟೇಷನ್ಸ್ ಏನು, ಅಡ್ವಾಂಟೇಜಸ್ ಏನು, ಹೈಡ್ರೋಜನ್ ಗ್ಯಾಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾವ ಸಂದರ್ಭದಲ್ಲಿ ಎಕ್ಸ್ಪ್ಲೋಷನ್ ಆಗ್ತದೆ ಇವೆಲ್ಲನೂ ತಿಳ್ಕೊಂಡು. ಸೊ ಇವಾಗ ನಾವು ಮಲ್ಟಿಪಲ್ ಚಾಯ್ಸ್ ಕ್ವಶನ್ ನೋಡೋದಾದ್ರೆ the first one is hydrogen is used in large alternators mainly to so reduce distortion of waveform, cool the machine, strengthen the magnetic field, reduce eddy current losses. ಸೊ ಇಲ್ಲಿ ನಮಗೆ ಯಾವುದೇ ಕಾರಣಕ್ಕೂ ನಾವು ಹೈಡ್ರೋಜನ್ ಗ್ಯಾಸ್ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡಿ ವೇವ್ ಫಾರ್ಮ್ ಡಿಸ್ಟಾರ್ಷನ್ ನ ಕಡಿಮೆ ಮಾಡಕ್ ಹೋಗಲ್ಲ. ಸೊ ಕೂಲಿಂಗ್ ದ ಮೆಷಿನ್ ದಟ್ ಇಸ್ ಮೋಸ್ಟ್ ಇಂಪಾರ್ಟೆಂಟ್. ಸೊ ವಿ ಕೆನಾಟ್ ಸ್ಟ್ರೆಂಥನ್ ದ ಮ್ಯಾಗ್ನೆಟಿಕ್ ಫೀಲ್ಡ್. So we cannot reduce the eddy current losses. So the answer will be the in order to cooling the machine we can use a hydrogen gas. So in order to ensure effective cooling, cylindrical rotor alternator use, axial ducts only, radial ducts only, forced air cooling and both radial and axial ducts. So in this case, in order to make the effective things on the outer periphery of the rotor, there are number of points will be provided in order to circulate the air. So in case of cylindrical type of rotor, they can use both axial ducts as well as the radial ducts in order to get the effective cooling system. The overheating of generator winding results in reduced life of the machine, does not have any significant effect, reduces generated voltage and reduces power factor. Definitely it will be reduces the life of the machine, because if we are not controlling this overheating at one particular stage, it may damage the winding and insulation. Once those two things will be failure, automatically the complete machine will be in the halt conditions. So that means it will be reduces the life of the machine. Next, which of the following method is used for the cooling of large turbo alternators? So number one, air cooling, hydrogen cooling, oil cooling and water cooling. These air cooling, oil cooling and water cooling will have certain limitations, because so the ducts will be getting more than 50% of the armature rotor length. So therefore these air cooling, oil cooling and water cooling cannot satisfy or fulfill the conditions of cooling. So therefore hydrogen cooling is the better way of giving the cooling system for a large turbo alternators. Which type of system is preferred for turbo alternator? Forced air, hydrogen, water cooled, only B and C, all of these. So all these systems are used for the cooling system only. So therefore we can use all the system under different conditions. If it is a smaller rating turbo alternator, we can go for a forced and water cooled. So if it is the rating will be increasing, we can go for a hydrogen. So therefore, according to our requirement, we have to use all these three types of coolings. Next, which of the following method is used for air cooling of turbo alternator? One-sided axial ventilation, two-sided, multiple, all of the above. So all of the above is the answer. So in direct cooled system, hydrogen, both stator and rotor conductors are made up of very hollow. If it is solid, we cannot circulate the air. If it is perforated, the air will not be circulated properly. So in order to circulate maximum amount of air, the system will be in hollow. Which of the following is an advantage of hydrogen cooling? So this hydrogen cooling will increases the efficiency and it will be increases the rating. Also it will be increases the life of the machine. So the answer will be all of the above. Dash cooling is the process of dissipating the armature and field winding losses to a cooling medium circulating within the winding insulation wall. So it is by direct method. Direct water cooling of rotor winding presents no mechanical difficulties, lesser mechanical difficulties, greater mechanical difficulties, none of the above. So it is a greater mechanical difficulties will be obtained. So these are the references what I have referred while preparing the E content of cooling of alternator, and this is for the videos, and these are the E content development team. With the support of all these members, we have to create these type of E content. So thank you.